B350 Board of Education. I'd like to welcome all visitors here. Thanks for coming out. We have additions to the agenda.
Yes, Mr. President and Board, we'll be adding under executive session negotiations and also property acquisition, those two items. And also, when we get to the second item on the agenda, which was a student council report, we'll be requesting to table that to the February meeting.
Need to approve the agenda.
Mr. President, move we approve the agenda with noted changes in addition.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the added agenda items in executive section of negotiations and property. Any discussion? All in favor, right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We need to approve the consent agenda. Financial statements either mailed to you or on your computer. And minutes of the December meeting.
Mr. President, I would move that we approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items. Any discussion? All in favor, right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any patron comments tonight? Nothing? Okay, moving on. Business items.
Mr. President and Board, it's my privilege to introduce Cheryl Foster. She's not new to this board. She's been here for a number of times talking about parents as teachers. She's returning this evening, trying to give us a little bit of kind of an annual update on how that program's going. And I'm just going to turn it over to Cheryl, and if you have questions, I'm sure she'll be glad to answer them.
Yes, yes, thank you. I always like to bring pictures. They're fun. Fun to look at. Thank you very much for your time tonight. And I'm not asking for anything tonight. This is just an FYI meeting and just to share some updates with you. I especially and sincerely thank you and commend you for the continued vision that you have for the families in this community by making parents as teachers available to them. So I'm in my 6th year as parent educator, and St. John is in its 5th year of offering parents as teachers to the community here. Something that just recently came out on the KSDE Board of Education site is all the parents as teachers in Kansas, and our little consortium's right here in the yellow, and I don't know, I just wanted to bring you that and show you that. I'll lay it right here for right now. But we're on there. There's no one on the either side of us. We have Larned above us and Pratt below us. So anyway, just wanted to show you that. I decided to forego the sharing information with you that I did last year about how parents as teachers got its beginning, where it started, about the research-based curriculum that we use when we go into homes, although I'd be happy to address that or answer any questions that you might have about that. And also, I will be leaving a very brief and concise pamphlet with a little thank you note in there to you too that might address some of those things. So what I wanted to do is tell you of a couple of additions that we had to parents as teachers to the St. John Stafford program this year. When writing this year's grant proposal for the state, which was about, I guess, March or April last year, one of the goals was to have the parent educator, myself, assume the coordinator role for our local PAT program. This decision was made after talking to the current coordinators, who at that time were Mr. Losey and Mr. Wyrick of Stafford, the principals, and getting their encouragement to do so. As you might suspect, I had been doing a large percentage of the coordinating of the program for 6 years probably just by default and just by the way small programs like ours works. And so they gave their blessings on that. It was written into the grant, it was approved, and the goal was attained when I went through the supervisory training last fall. So, another goal was to hire a part-time parent educator. This person would be hired to work 10 hours a week in the program. And in order to do this without changing the budget, I would drop my hours to 30 a week. And after advertising in both the St. John and the Stafford papers, we did hire Teresa Lowther. She and her husband, Jeff Lowther, live in Stafford, and they are the youth pastors at Calvary Baptist Church. They serve youth in both St. John and Stafford, and I believe they're a really good fit for lots of reasons. And she went through her training about the middle of November, and one of her first assignments is going to be recruiting and taking on some new families. Numbers change fairly often in this program due to moves and the exit of the 3-year-olds. And since I know Board of Education's like numbers, I have prepared just a page for you. And I'll let you pass that on around. Can you ready, please? Thank you. Kind of take off on what I gave you last year, just a few numbers from, on the top part, there are numbers from last year's annual report. Last year's because I haven't submitted this year's until I submit each annual report about June of each year. Okay, the number of children who received at least one PAT visit last year. There were 33 children, and that represents 25 families, and 15 of those families were St. John families. And then just quickly going down, number of teen parents we served was 1 family. Number of families who speak English or who speak Spanish as their primary language in the home, that's 3 families, and those are all from St. John. The number of low-income families, approximately 20. 19 families received between 1 and 5 visits from me, and 6 of them received between 6 and 9 visits. That's just a statistic they have us tell, and I included it for you. There were 10 newly enrolled families last year. There were 9 parent-child special activities offered, like literacy programs, dads and donuts, car seat checks, picnics, pet birthday celebrations, and so forth. And then beyond that, there were approximately 40 play groups offered. And as you might know, the play groups here in St. John are in the Bridges to Learning room, in Cindy's room. I love that collaboration with her, and that's worked great. 30 children were eligible for developmental and health screenings, and 21 of those were completed. 4 children were identified with possible developmental and health problems, and 3 were referred for evaluations. I think 2 of those were like vision problems, and the other one was a behavioral problem. So those were referred. So approximately 42 St. John children have been served by parents as teachers since 2002. And then right there in the middle, the current 2008-2009 year, 25 families are enrolled in teachers. Of those, number 12 are St. John families. And then below the dotted line on the very bottom, I just gave a website of our national Parents as Teachers website. It's a great professional website. Now you guys don't have lots of time on your hands, but if you ever could just click on it for a minute or two, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. Things for families, things for parent educators. And then there's a portal I can go into that has all of my information that I can keep and print off annual reports. Playgroups and special announcements are on both school district website calendars, or will be shortly. Mrs. Kinnaman is very helpful and gets in articles regarding parents as teachers that I send her, and I've been doing that for all these years, to the district newsletter. And she gets those on the calendar, except when I forget to get them to her, like I did in both December and January. Another oops. So, in closing, I was reading today for the 100th time, study after study, and this is not news to you, shows that for every $1 invested in high-quality, comprehensive programs supporting children and families from birth, there is a $7 to $10 return for higher graduation and unemployment rates, less crime, less use of the public welfare system, and better health. So if there are any questions that I could,
When you put down there the number of families that receive visits, let's say just the ones you put between 1 and 5, is it your choosing or their choosing or a combination of both why you don't go there anymore?
when they turn 3, the child turns 3, they exit the program. Our program just serves up to 3-year-olds. I offer visits to every family, once a month, twice a month if there's some special needs or if they request it. It could be weekly if they requested it. Our curriculum covers a weekly program. And there's all kinds of cancellations on their part, my part, weather part. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
But every family gets the opportunity for monthly home visits.
Those students that entering, say, kindergarten after they've been in this program, what are the teachers saying?
You know, we're just starting, let's see, I should have had that. Last year would have been my first year that some of those students would have been in kindergarten. And we could probably track that really easily.
They have to be more advanced than they would have been without the program.
The numbers would support that, I hope. But and then things like, you know, this is a parent education program, so things like what parents do with information or that I share with them. And hopefully it makes and helps the families be, especially those that might not be quite as comfortable with the educational system or schools, hopefully it will help them to just move right into being able to talk with their teachers, their principals, maybe even more easily than they might have before. I don't know, maybe Mr. Losey has a thought on that. He's seen, anyway,
Well,
not to put you on the spot.
and you're not at all. The really interesting part is going with Cheryl on a home visit just to see the things that she does with the more with the parents than with the children. The program is really beneficial in getting the parents more involved in the development of the child, and she offers information on, you know, if this child is 3 months old, what they should be doing, or if this child is 2 years old, the things that they should be doing. And it's like Mitch said, obviously, if they continue to do these things, the students are more ready when they do come to kindergarten.
There's national and state criteria that has that at fingertips, and so it's about, probably I ought to try to run that kind of criteria through Stafford St. John kiddos and see if it matches up with what we're seeing otherwise.
Just an observation, one of the things that probably occurs is you would expect the program to make a difference, and the fact that it is making a difference, you don't notice, because when those kids do get to kindergarten, you've closed those gaps that might have existed otherwise. And so the kids come in and you don't have these huge differences between kids. They've closed that gap by some of the stuff the parents are helping do, so it's kind of one of those hidden
Right,
benefits, I guess. So.
Right. And any of you are welcome to go on a home visit with me. I've had a grandpa that's kind of been on a home visit here. He saw me as I came in. But, and interestingly enough, another statistic I should have put down, I wish it were higher, but I have 7 dads, don't ask me how many of those are in St. John, most are in St. John actually, that are in home visits with us. And more would be if probably the timing were a little differently. And so that's a really neat thing too. I really enjoy that. There's
Any other questions, comments?
Just glad we're a part of it.
Thank you. I am really glad to. And one thing that I just want you to know is that this program is near and dear to my heart, but I believe it is one ball of wax program. I know Stafford and St. John both put in monies to this, and I have a vested interest in serving everyone. And I do, and the numbers stay pretty equal. I do the same kind of recruiting, the same kind of begging, the same kind of advertisement, you know, in both districts. So although I'm housed in one district, just under that roof, I feel like I belong to both. I hope you feel that way too. So I want to leave this brochure for you. And
Another thing my daughter-in-law said she thought was also very good for the parents, not only for the kids, but you get to meet the other parents at an earlier time.
yes, that is a neat plus. And what I really enjoy about that are the two, even the two districts, the two communities, the families getting together. They certainly enjoy that, and it's a neat opportunity. And different cultures getting to be together. And I think that's why I love, oh, do I not have that picture? Oh, there's two where Braxton and this little guy were just reaching for each other. Ah, why didn't I have that over here? It was really neat. So having the cultures together too.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Item 2 has been,
Item 2, we'd like to table till next month. The student council officers are involved in basketball practice tonight. We didn't get off until late enough, but we were worried they might not be here, so. But we will get that back on in the future.
You're welcome.
Item 3, calendar information. Each of you on your desktop there should have a file that is called 2009-10 school year calendar. It's an Excel file that you should be able to open. This is just kind of an initial calendar proposal. It's something to look at, to see what issues jump out at you. It's pretty much a day-for-day calendar set up similar to what we have this year. There may be a few differences here and there because of how the calendar does kind of shift and change over a 7-year cycle. And there is a calendar committee that will start meeting this month, looking at different proposals to bring back to the board to look at and to finally approve at the March meeting. But would like, at this point, if the board sees anything or has anything you've heard about or know about that you'd like for us to at least look at, or try to incorporate or to take out of the calendar as it currently exists, I would appreciate that. And if you see things down the road, feel free to call. But just at first look, is there anything that you see or you know about that you have a question about?
Is there a reason that we don't go clear up to Memorial, we're a week ahead of Memorial Day on this calendar?
Let's see.
When is Memorial
31st of May.
You mean while they don't stretch it out?
Yeah,
further,
in other words, start a week later and end a week later.
We could
'Cause
do that.
Memorial Day is the 31st on this calendar?
it's the last Monday of the month.
I don't know. I
Sometimes
have
it
to
isn't.
look that one up. I don't know.
This year
I'll
it's
check
not.
on that and see.
It's not even before the last Monday of the month.
On the calendar.
This year it's not. This year it's
One thing like on Christmas too, I think,
yeah.
instead of going to the 23rd, we go to just like the 22nd or something, to give a little bit more time to go places and get ready for Christmas.
Okay.
I know Billy said there's a couple teachers that wish we would've got out. If they would've could've got out a day sooner so they could have more planning for Christmas and stuff.
Hmm.
Caroline, are you able to pull up on? Okay. Now, if you'll do a Google search on just online calendar, there's one that comes up.
Yeah, I can't get on.
Okay. Well, we'll check on that Memorial Day one. Any others? Let me see. As I said, for the most part, these are corresponding dates that we had this year. And we'll have some preliminary things for you to look at in February meeting. There's nothing else. We can move on.
Okay.
Item 4 is capital outlay review. Annually, at this time of year, we try to go through and look at capital outlay projects, both historically, but also some of the things that we're looking at, possibilities. There is a file there on your desktop if you'd like to look at that. As I said, a great deal of it is just kind of historical things we've done over the last 4 or 5 years. If you scroll down through there, the ones that probably are most interest are those things we just recently have done, and then some of the ones that we're looking at as possibilities. For this past year, the main things that we've done, the biggest project we had was creating a larger elementary storm shelter, or actually creating a shelter. We didn't really have one. We sheltered in the hallways, so that was a pretty significant project, and that was a great enhancement in terms of safety for our kids. One that we're in the process of doing on a 3-year lease purchase is the activity bus. Also replaced the lights in the high school office and office suites, and then also in the choir room. It's the same type of light replacements that we did in the hallways, outside of the gymnasium, and then also in the gymnasium. And then finally, we're still supposed to have our level 3 track maintenance done. I've been in touch with the people. They ran out of time in the fall to get that completed, and so they're supposed to be here to do that in the spring. I did contact them about that and inquire about the possibility of them rebidding that with the cost of oil dropping as much as it has, the prospect of their materials that they use dropping, if that were to happen. They said they would have to check and see. At this point, they haven't seen any cost change in terms of the materials that they use, so I think that would be one possibility. Those are things that we have done or have scheduled to do. Some of the possible things that are listed there, future projects, and these are not listed in any set order, it's just how I put them on. One that I have contacted the architect about putting together a proposal we bring before the board, and that is to replace the auditorium roof. It's the last of what I would call the membrane roofs that we have on our buildings, I believe. It's old enough at this point, it's starting to shrink, which means that it's starting to pull away from the sides, and that's what we're starting to get into some problems with leaking. And the type of roof that we propose go back in there with would not be that same type of roof. It would be a more traditional type of roof with pitch on it that would cause it to drain well. But as I said, we'll get those, we'll bring those proposals to you. Classroom carpeting, we try to do a couple of classrooms each summer. Some of those we do, we've done some renovations of classrooms, done that as well. Some of those, we have about 5 or 6 large single pane windows still in the building that have not ever been replaced, either with more of a thermal type, or that we might look at using some glass block to close partially in, make smaller areas, and then replace the windows at less cost. But the large number of those are in the breezeway between the elementary and the junior high. If you ever travel down through that hallway, it's pretty cold in the winter time. It gets pretty warm in the summer. So one that's still on the list, we looked at one point and didn't get a real strong indication from the board they wanted to go anywhere with this, but that it would be to renovate the auditorium seating. Downside to that would be the likely reduction in the number of seats. People would like to revisit that at some point we can. Additional high school entrance lighting, that refers to kind of themed lighting poles, similar to what they have around the square. And we still have on the list the possibility of adding in another sedan vehicle. So one item that we don't have on here yet, that we can put on here, would be to redo the lights in the south gym, similar to what we did in the north gym. The south gym has kind of a hodgepodge. It has both some fluorescent lights, although they are not the high efficiency kind like we have in the north gym. And then also there are some of the mercury vapor type lights. And so replacing those, we would get consistent lighting across the whole place. They would be high efficiency, they would cost us less to operate. They would also be instant on, instant off. I think we've had really good luck with the fluorescents we have in the north gym. We've had a number of comments, I know, over the last several years since we've done that project, that how nice and light, bright it is in that north gym. Especially people that are coming from gyms that have the mercury vapor types. And I think there are other schools around that have gone to those. I think they went to those over staff as well. So. And then if there are any other projects that the board has in mind that would like us to investigate or look at.
I don't know if it's capital outlay, but the library having problems with their computer system still? Is something need replaced over there?
Well, their Bill Forbes, who does our network stuff, has been working to try to get that fully operational. They have some components to review for the board. They changed from to a new library catalog software at the end of the summer, start of school year. Something called Alexandria. And they have struggled to get all the components of it up and running. And they're not sure if some of it has to do with how our firewall operates, if it has to do with some of our computers. They've tried changing a few things. I mean, it's still, the main parts of it do operate, but there are some extra modules on it that would be nice if they could get them running. They haven't been able to. We're looking at the possibility of trying to put it on a different server to see if that corrects the problem. So